Welcome to the Korea Pro podcast. I'm your host, Jeongmin Kim, the editorial director of Korea Pro.
And I'm John Lee, the editor of Korea Pro.
Join us for a weekly 15-minute conversation as we dive into the most pressing stories shaping South Korea and dissect the most complicated ones for you.
From politics to culture, technology to society, we've got you covered. So stay ahead of the curve and never be sidelined again.
So get ready for a fresh perspective on South Korea's news. This is the Korea Pro podcast.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Korea Pro podcast. It is now Thursday, August 22nd. It's almost 6 p.m. And, well, let's get started right away.
The biggest news this week was the BOK rate
Being unchanged.
Being
for the
unchanged.
13th consecutive time.
This is record number.
It is the record length of time that the BOK has maintained its base rate.
So what's the reason for that?
Well, the base rate has been at around 3.5%, and the reason that the central bank decided to maintain the rates at the current rate is because of household debt. Now, household debt has been going up every quarter as they've been measuring it, and this has gone up to a record high right now. It's up to about $1.4 trillion. That's a lot of zeros in that number. And one of the reasons why the household debt is up so high is that people are, despite the fact that they are in debt and they need to take out loans and the interest rates are quite high, they are still taking out these loans in order to buy real estate.
So for
apartments.
investment.
Exactly. There's been a lot of issues going on with this, such as gap investments. Gap investment being people trying to purchase property at a certain percentage and in order to sell it at a higher percentage in order to make the kind of speculative profits.
Right. And in order to do that, many times people make use of 청약 system, which is like a lottery system to get apartments at lower rate. But like that was supposed to be for fair opportunity for people to try to get their own apartments, like homes.
Sure. It's an abuse of the system.
Basically everyone's abusing it for this because also, to be fair, there are really no other way of investment that people consider safer.
It's not only just safe, it's real estate, for better or for worse, is considered as one of the most profitable return on investments as well. Sure, people can try to invest in Bitcoin as well or in other cryptocurrencies, but people have gotten really burned by investing in cryptocurrencies. And so they've... Stocks as well. And so they've pivoted back toward real estate. And because of this very excessively heated real estate market, with real estate prices going up despite the fact that the administration has been trying to tamp down prices. So banks have already said that they're going to start to take a look and review their loan practices to ensure that they don't lend money to people who they suspect might be engaged in sort of gap investments. And also, by maintaining interest rates the way they are, the government is hoping that it will just... make people a bit more hesitant to take out these loans.
Right. The trend that I see in recent years is that, you know how there was like an impression, like when you think about people who are investing in real estate, people tend to think of people who already have money, right? But in South Korea, this is considered something for 서민, like ordinary people that they can try investing. That's why it's so heated. And prime example, just very recently, there was this big apartment in Dongtan that there was a spot for it in the 청약 system, the lottery system. 3 million people applied, although it was like very, very expensive. So all the YouTubers and everybody, they were stressing how much of a great investment this will be, despite the risks that you have to go through with the debt.
Right. It's what average, normal people do. It's accessible on YouTube, like you just said. But here's the problem with the interest rates being the way they are. It's right now August 22nd. And in about a month from now, September 17th, the Federal Reserve is going to have a meeting, the U.S. Federal Reserve. And a lot of investors are predicting that when they meet on September 17th, they're going to cut interest rates. And although this is, of course, not at all confirmed, there is speculation that the Federal Reserve might cut interest rates at least 3 times this year.
And what would be the implication for South Korea then?
Well, that's the thing. If all of a sudden the U.S. Federal Reserve cuts their interest rates, now it's in that sort of instance, the BOK will also feel an incentive to cut interest rates as well. Because with all of these interest rates being high as they are, construction has been in the doldrums for a long time. A lot of manufacturing is not able to take out the loans that they need. And so in order to boost the economy, they do need to lower the interest rates as well. But we just said that household debt is $1.4 trillion. And this market's not cooling down anytime soon.
So I guess this is why the presidential office official anonymously talking to News One, I believe, this was quite rare of a statement to say something against what BOK decided. They were like, I know it's their own authority, but I think they said something like disappointed.
Well, I'm not quite sure what the presidential office was expecting, really. Sure, they might want the BOK to try to...
아쉽다, they said. 아쉽다 being not happy.
Not happy with it, a little bit disappointed. You are right about that. But yeah, with the economy the way it is, the BOK is in a very tough spot at the moment.
Yeah. It's been in a tough spot for a very long time. And at the same time, they also downgraded the prospects for the growth rate for this year, right?
Initially, the BOK said that the economy might grow by 2.5% this year, but they reversed that to 2.4%. Now, exports have been doing quite well, and mostly because of semiconductor demand.
And just a few weeks ago, we discussed how international growth prospects for South Korea, it sort of increased slightly in the past few months, right?
It did. And mostly it was because of their expectation that exports would grow. And they have grown, and they likely will keep being robust, at least for the foreseeable future. But it's all about domestic demand.
I see. Moving on to another domestic development. This one's not economy, maybe related. There is an apparent COVID surge.
Yeah, our very own Tuna wrote this piece just yesterday.
If you want to know more, please subscribe.
What she said. And so there is apparently a new COVID variant. I forget what it's actually called.
I'm losing track of the variant names.
They're not nearly as fun as it was when they came up with Omicron back in the day.
Omicron, you mean?
Omicron, thank you. You see, I can't even keep track of even the old names now. But yeah, there's a new strain going around. Democratic Party Lee Jae-myung also contracted the virus. And I believe that the government is saying that the virus will peak at the end of this month.
So compared to the COVID regime in the past, how serious would be the impact?
Well, we're hearing conflicting reports about this. The most immediate concern is that apparently there's a shortage of treatment drugs. I'm not sure if it's vaccines or treatment drugs.
Right. What's that about? Why is the shortage?
Apparently, there was about 28% of those drugs that had to be discarded because they had passed the expiration dates. But and that's why the government is saying that they are going to treat the most vulnerable population. By vulnerable, I'm assuming the senior citizens and children. But already by that statement that the government is saying is going to start discriminating when it comes to treating people. And so that's already an issue that people are talking about. But also, there's a sense of, shall we say, people not seeming to care all that much about the virus. It doesn't feel like 2022.
Right. I mean, to be fair, there are treatments now, and also
A
COVID.
lot of us are vaccinated too.
Vaccinated, and also the emergency system is gone now, and the businesses don't really have to follow anything. Like if there are COVID patients, they have to stay home or anything.
There are no enforced social distancing measures as they used to be.
But is there recommendations still? I see the banners here and there.
I see the banners as well, but I don't think they have any bite to it as they used to in the past.
Next topic. John, you wrote this interesting analysis about how the conglomerates in South Korea, chaebol's companies, are changing hiring practices due to demographic issues. What was this about?
Well, just this week, there was a research institute here in Korea called Leaders Index. And what they found was that they did a survey of all of South Korea's major conglomerates. And on average, they found that people who are in their 30s or under, the number of those people who are employed in conglomerates have fallen by about 5%. But the number of people who are above 50, they've increased by about 10%.
Wow.
And so there is a huge demographic imbalance now, kind of in many ways reflecting our demographic realities. It's finally hit the conglomerates as well. And so according to this research institute, what they have found was that hiring practices have already changed and will continue to change even more going on in the future. You know how in the past, or even in our own experiences, whenever Koreans wanted to get a job at, say, Hyundai or Samsung or any of those big major conglomerate companies, they would thousands of people would go and take those companies' entrance exams and get
Like 5-phase entrance exams.
Exactly. They would have to get through all of these different interviews and have these kinds of exams. And it was just open to
An actual exam that looks like SAT.
Yeah, an actual exam like you was back in school again. And this was the kind of open recruitment that a lot of these conglomerates used to have.
That comes from the idea of like fair opportunity. That is sort of similar to the logic of Sunung and KSAT.
Exactly. But apparently, that's already starting to change. These companies are no longer announcing mass recruitments now. Now they're just
공채.
Now they're just hiring older, more experienced workers who know what they're doing.
Wait. So there is a lack of staffers who are in their 30s, but they are hiring more experienced older people?
So they might be poaching from other companies. They might be hiring from within their own companies, promoting people who have already worked in their companies as well. But they are not doing the whole mass open recruitment as they used to.
Wait, I don't get the logic, because if there is a lack of people, like younger people who can, like looking at it from the employer's point of view, who can work at cheaper prices and maybe bring in some innovation and creativity, whatever, why are they going for even older people?
Well, that's the thing. There are not that many young people anymore these days.
Anyways, you mean?
Yeah. Because there's a lack, because the people are not having children anymore, it's not just conglomerates. We've already covered this many times on Korea Pro. Schools, military bases, they're either closing or shutting down or being transferred to something else. And so,
like elderly care home.
Exactly. And this is what's happening to corporations as well.
I see there. So they are preemptively adapting to the changing demographic structure by changing the hiring practices.
Exactly. But of course, the problem with this entire process is that older workers cost more money.
That's what I'm saying.
They cost more money, and not to sound ageist, but if someone is working at a semiconductor production company and they're over 50, how relevant is the skills that they have at this point, especially with high-tech industries where technology is constantly changing? Does someone who is in their 50s, who may have already studied and did all of their master's program like 20, 30 years ago, are they still able to keep up with the technological changes and adapt with the changing market?
Right, that's what I'm saying about innovation. Who will do it?
Well, that's a big $1 million question, isn't it?
In South Korea's fast-paced professional environment, staying informed is key to success. With a Korea Pro subscription, you get access to daily email newsletters, expert briefings, and exclusive events that help you stay ahead. As a podcast listener, you can now try Korea Pro for free and subscribe at a discounted rate if you like what we're doing. Visit koreapro.org/podcast to subscribe and get everything you need to stay on top in South Korea. Korea Pro, never be sidelined again.
Week ahead. This is not technically next week, but Kishida, apparently Japanese Prime Minister, might be visiting early September. Would this be like a goodbye meeting?
I presume so. He did announce that he is not going to run for re-election this time around. And he might be coming back to see his old pal, Yoon Suk-yeol, one more time before he leaves office.
And maybe give him heads up on the next potential leader?
Well, we don't know who the next Japanese prime minister is going to be. They're going to come from the same party. But yeah, Kishida has got on the record telling the Liberal Democratic Party that he wants Japan to continue to pursue improved relations with South Korea. But of course, different personalities, different priorities, different interests. And so Kishida might want to meet with Yoon Suk-yeol to also suggest to Yoon, hey, among the three leaders who met at Camp David, Biden, Kishida, and Yoon, you're going to be the last one remaining in office. So
true.
No pressure. You might want to...
I didn't think about that, but yeah, you're right.
You might want to brush up a little bit on what my next successor is going to be like and what he wants out of you. So let's share some notes before I take off.
Right, sounds like a potential cram session for Yoon. Another thing coming up in actual next week is a big general plenary meeting at the National Assembly. The lawmakers of the opposition and the ruling parties, they framed this like 비쟁점 민생 현안, which means non-controversial topic, but something relates to what they call people's livings, directly more related
People's
to
livelihood
issues. So they will probably discuss things like how to prevent the laws that prevent the 전세, the apartment rental thing, the scams, I suppose.
They're going to talk about how to protect and
Reparation as well.
compensate people who fell victims to those rental scams.
Right, and all other economic issues.
Issues that are not so politicized.
But what are the issues that are not so politicized right now? I
Not
feel like
that
there would
many.
be just a handful that they will be discussing.
Everything is uber politicized these days.
Exactly. But anyways, that's coming up next week. So we might see a rare bipartisan sort of moment next week. Lee Jae-myung,
As we mentioned, he's sick.
he's sick, apparently. So there was supposed to be a leader-to-leader meeting between Han-dong, the ruling party leader, and Lee, but that is, they say, postponed. Until when?
Until he recovers, I suppose. There has been no concrete date as to when they will meet again, but we'll have to wait and see.
And lastly, Ulchi Freedom Shield, the U.S.-South Korea joint exercises, the summertime exercises. The Ulchi part of it, the South Korean government one, it ends today, Thursday. So when you hear this, it would have been already over. And then next week, the UFS part will still continue. We haven't seen any U.S. strategic assets visiting South Korea yet. We don't even know if they will be visiting.
You would think they would, especially after the Washington Declaration.
But all in all, it looks like this time around, the UFS is very low profile this time compared to especially what we expected from South Korea initially saying this will be a very big deal.
Okay. All right. And all of this information will be emailed to you by Monday afternoon, written by our very dear own Jeongmin Kim. And so, if you would like to know more, please subscribe.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in.
If you want to know more, sign up for our daily executive briefings. We brief you on all you need to know from the past 24 hours and why they matter every morning in your inboxes.
Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for your weekly dose of insight. And until next time, I'm Jeongmin Kim.
And I'm John Lee. Stay connected, stay informed, and we'll see you next time on the Great Pro Podcast.